And we continue to follow the news of the collapse of the defunct FTX cryptocurrency exchange. After weeks of scrutiny, former founder Sam Bankman-Fried will appear before a judge this morning. He has been indicted on 8 criminal charges, including wire fraud and conspiracy. He could face up to 115 years in prison if convicted. To talk more about this, we welcome in Mitchell Epner, a member of the firm Rottenberg, Lipman, Rich, PC, and a former federal prosecutor, to share more about these legal consequences. And Mitchell, we're going to be dealing with a lot of acronyms here. Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, we got FTX, and now we have involved the SEC, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the FTC. So I was just saying he's going to fight extradition. How does he fight extradition from the Bahamas? Is this something he can win, or is it a formality because there is an extradition treaty there?
So first of all, thank you for having me on, Mitch. And he can fight extradition from the Bahamas because it's the Bahamas that decides whether or not to extradite him, not the United States. And for example, Julian Assange has been fighting extradition from the UK. He's the WikiLeaks guy for at least 5 years. I think that Sam Bankman-Fried has 2 big problems in fighting extradition. Number one, this is clearly an economic crime, not a political crime. And number 2, the Bahamas jail is truly awful. It is so bad that it actually made the 2021 State Department report on the Bahamas for how awful it is. So he may decide between now and February 8th, which is his next court hearing, that he will waive extradition and come back to the United States, because as bad as U.S. jail is, it is not as bad as the Bahamas jail.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago he was trying to figure out where to buy property. Now he's figuring out where he'd rather spend time in jail. Will anyone who lost money here get anything back? And also, should they? There is an argument out there that these were investors. Cryptocurrency is sort of a gamble. And when you lose your money gambling, the casino doesn't go, well, we feel bad for you, let's give you money back. I don't know if that's the right analogy here, but I am just curious, will anybody be made whole or even close to it here?
Well, let's take the Bernie Madoff example. There was a receiver who was appointed who spent about a decade recovering money, and people received back someplace between 30 and 60 cents on the dollar. There are 2 buckets of people here. With regard to FTX, there are people who thought that they were putting their money into a custody account, which was just basically like an electronic safe deposit box. And they were told your crypto is just being stored. It is not being lent out to anybody. It's just sitting there. And that was a lie, apparently. And then there were people who thought that they were investing to make money. I am pretty certain that the people who had custody accounts will get all of their money back before anybody who was investing in risk will get any of their money back.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. What about Lee Zeldin and the Republicans? They had this hearing yesterday. Sam Bankman-Fried was supposed to be the star witness, and he was arrested, and he spent time in a Bahamian jail instead of testifying before Congress. But Lee Zeldin is sort of leading the charge and saying, when the Republicans take over Congress, we are going to regulate cryptocurrency because it is the wild, wild west. What do you think of that position? And also, what can Congress do to sort of regulate this if they wanted to? Are they just going to make it like any other banking system?
So 2 things. Number 1, Lee Zeldin will be on the sidelines because he ran for governor of New York and lost. So other Republicans may be doing things. He's going to be playing golf. But number 2, on the question of what can be done, crypto has been in this regulatory nether zone for the last decade, and it is going to be up to Congress and the Biden administration to decide what to do. Part of the problem here is that for the last decade, some cryptocurrency organizations, including FTX, have been saying, well, we want regulation because we want to prove that we're not just a bunch of fraudsters. Well, it turns out that FTX was just a bunch of fraudsters, according to FTX's CEO at that hearing yesterday.
The thing that I find so incredible about Sam Bankman-Fried is how vocal he has been. You're an attorney. I imagine that would not be your advice to him, but he seems to think it's a defense to say, oops, I didn't mean to.
So If you are somebody out there who's under investigation, rule number one is shut up. Rule number two is shut up when you're shutting up. And he has violated rule number one over and over again to his detriment. There was a guy by the name of Stephen Findeisen, who goes by the nom de internet of CoffeeZilla, who literally got Sam Bankman-Fried to admit to fraud on air since he knew he was being investigated. What he said to Vox, where he admitted that, man, all that dumb, I'm cleaning it up a little. Man, all that dumb stuff I said, it's not true, not really. These are things that prosecutors drool over.
My goodness. So it looks like that he's kind of making their case for them, is what it sounds like.
Yes, if you are a potential defendant and you say 99 self-serving things and one thing that sinks the ship, the prosecutors get to play the one thing that sinks the ship, and you don't get to play the 99 self-serving things. That's the way our justice system works.
Wow. And that's a man who knows. That's Mitchell Epner. He's a former federal prosecutor. He now works for the firm Rottenberg, Lippman, Rich, PC. We thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.